are my children.
They said the sun was cruel that day. Even the sky looked thirsty. Naomi stood in the market, her small hands clutching a tray of oranges, her lips cracked from heat and hunger. When her knees gave way, the fruit scattered across the dusty road, rolling between tires and footsteps. People shouted, horns blared, but no one stopped, except one man. Uncle Mike dropped his own basket and rushed toward her. He lifted her gently, dusting her face with trembling hands. "Ah, this child, when last did you eat?" Her brother Daniel ran up, panting, his own tray empty, eyes full of fear. "Uncle, please don't tell Auntie. She'll beat us." Uncle Mike looked at the thin boy and the fainted girl and felt anger rise in his chest. "Who is your auntie?" he asked. "Sandra," Daniel whispered. "Our mummy's sister." That name froze the man for a moment. He'd heard stories, he'd seen her shouting in the market, seen how her own son never lacked while these two children sold fruits barefoot. He tore a piece of bread and gave it to Daniel. "Eat, and give your sister when she wakes. Don't tell her I helped. But listen, my boy, your mother must know." And that is how the story truly began. 8 years earlier, two sisters had sat side by side inside the British High Commission office in Lagos. Both had dreams of leaving, of building better lives. But destiny divided them. Clara Williams, the gentle one, the dreamer, was approved for a work visa to London. Her younger sister, Sandra, was denied. On that day, envy entered her heart like poison dropped in water. At first, Clara didn't notice. She left Nigeria with blessings on her lips and tears in her eyes. London became her grind and her salvation. She worked double shifts as a nurse, sending money home every month, money for food, school, clothes, rent. Her sister had promised to care for her 3 children, Daniel, Naomi, and little Jason. "You can trust me," Sandra had said. "I'll raise them like my own." And for years, Clara believed her. Every video call showed tidy children, clean rooms, wide smiles. "Look how big you've grown," she would say, never seeing the fear behind their eyes. Behind the camera, Sandra would hiss, "Smile properly for your mother, or I'll deal with you." While Clara counted pounds, Sandra counted grudges. Each Western Union alert reminded her of what she didn't have. "She thinks she's better because she's abroad," she would mutter. "If not for me, her children would be dead. I deserve a good life too." So she began to spend. Wigs, clothes, a boutique, and finally a house. She called it Time's House of Grace. Grace, built from another woman's suffering. Meanwhile, her own son, Samson, ate like a prince. Daniel and Naomi, however, ate the leftovers from his plate. Jason learned to keep quiet, his eyes always searching for crumbs. "No food till you sell everything," Sandra would say. And when Naomi once asked timidly if she could go back to school, Sandra slapped her across the mouth. "School? You think oranges will sell themselves?" Uncle Mike began noticing. He'd call the children over when they passed his stall. "Where's your mother?" he asked one day. "London," Daniel said. "She sends money every month." Uncle Mike's face hardened. "Then why are you selling fruits?" Daniel looked away. "Auntie says we must help." Uncle Mike sighed. "Your mother's sweat is feeding another woman's greed." He wrote his phone number on a small paper. "Hide this. If you ever find a way to call, I'll help you reach her." They tried. Daniel sneaked out one evening with Naomi, heading to a cyber cafe to send a message. But Sandra caught them before they reached the gate. Her rage was thunder. She beat them till Naomi bled from the nose, tore the paper into shreds, and shouted loud enough for neighbors to hear. "You want to disgrace me? I'll show you madness." That night, Samson ate meat and rice, while Naomi lay shaking with fever. Daniel sat beside her, whispering, "One day, she'll know. Mummy will know." Months passed. Uncle Mike kept his eyes on them. One morning, Naomi fainted again, and that was when he took the photo, the one that would travel across oceans. He sent it through a friend to Mr. Benson, who once lived abroad with Clara. Mr. Benson forwarded it to her inbox with a short message. "Asterisk, are these your children? Asterisk, When Clara saw the picture, her world slowed. The faces were thin, the eyes hollow. But Sandra's denial came fast. "Fake picture," she said. "People are jealous of us. Those aren't your kids." Clara, tired and far away, believed her. "Nigeria people and their drama," she murmured. She didn't know that truth was knocking right at her door. When Sandra found out Uncle Mike had sent the photo, she stormed into the market like a hurricane. "Old man, you think you can destroy my family?" she screamed, knocking over his fruits. He stood tall despite his age. "You're destroying yours. Those children are innocent." She slapped him across the face. Traders shouted, some pulled her away. "Leave him, he's telling the truth." But Sandra's pride was louder than their pity. That night, she locked the children in their room without food. Jason cried till sleep took him. Daniel whispered, "Hold on, God sees." And Naomi whispered back, "If Mummy knew, she'd come." Hope was all they had left, and even that was fading. In London, Clara packed her suitcase. 8 years of longing was finally ending. She'd saved enough, planned everything, a surprise visit. "Let them see me before they hear me," she said softly, folding small gifts for each child. A new doll for Naomi, a wristwatch for Daniel, a storybook for Jason. She smiled, imagining their faces. She had no idea what awaited her. As her plane took off, she looked out through the oval window. The clouds glowed gold. In her heart, she carried laughter, but far beneath those same clouds, her children were already sleeping hungry again. And that is how fate prepares its cruelest reunions, with hope on one side of the sky and heartbreak waiting on the other. The morning Clara landed in Lagos, the sky was the same dusty grey she remembered. The air smelled of fuel, roasted corn, and home. She smiled as she stepped out of the airport, her heart fluttering like a girl returning to her first love. The taxi driver helped her load her bags, boxes of gifts, clothes, and sweets for the children she had dreamed about every single night for 8 years. She didn't tell anyone she was coming. She wanted it to be a surprise. She wanted to see their faces unprepared, to hold them without warning, to hear her name shouted in excitement. She imagined Daniel running to her, Naomi screaming with joy, and little Jason crying from shock. The picture played in her mind as the car moved through the city, past traffic, noise, and flashing billboards. Her smile never left her face, but fate had other plans. As the taxi slowed at a traffic light, Clara looked out the window absent-mindedly and then froze. There, at the edge of the road, stood a thin boy holding a small plastic bowl, begging. His hair was rough, his clothes torn, his lips cracked from the sun. She looked again. Her heart slammed against her ribs. That face, those eyes. "Stop the car!" she shouted. The driver slammed the brakes. Clara stepped out, trembling. Cars honked, people stared, but she didn't care. She moved closer, her suitcase forgotten. The boy looked up, startled. "Daniel," she whispered. The boy's eyes widened. For a moment, the world stilled. He blinked as if seeing a ghost. Then he whispered back, "Mummy?" Clara's knees gave out. She pulled him close, tears flooding her face. The crowd gathered. Some watched in silence, others murmured. The driver ran to help her. "Madam, is everything okay?" But nothing was okay. Nothing would ever be okay again. She held Daniel tightly, her voice shaking. "Where are your brother and sister?" He couldn't speak. He just pointed down the street. "Auntie sent me to beg for rice money." The words pierced her like knives. She looked at his wrists, thin, scarred, his neck burned from the sun. Her head spun. "Get in the car," she said, her voice breaking. "We're going home." The house she had paid for stood quiet, almost unfamiliar. Paint peeling, compound dirty, the gate half broken. The driver helped with her boxes. Daniel hesitated by the door. "Mummy," he said softly. "Auntie might be angry." "Let her be angry," Clara answered. Inside, the smell of stew filled the air. Sandra sat in the living room, dressed in lace, eating fried rice with her son, Samson. Music played from her phone. When she saw Clara standing in the doorway, she froze. The spoon dropped from her hand. "Sister Clara." Clara's eyes were fire. "Sandra, where are my children?" Sandra forced a laugh. You didn't tell me you were coming. What a surprise." Then Naomi appeared from the kitchen, a basin of water on her head, barefoot and frightened. She stopped when she saw her mother, water spilling down her dress. The basin crashed to the floor. "Mummy?" she whispered. Clara ran to her, dropping to her knees. "My baby, what happened to you?" Naomi began to cry, and that sound broke the house open. Sandra tried to smile. "Ah, you see how dramatic children can be. She just—" Clara cut her off. "Sandra, where is Jason?" Sandra hesitated. From the corner of the room, a small boy emerged, thin, dusty, holding a broken toy car. Clara reached for him. He didn't move. He looked at her as if unsure whether she was real. In that moment, everything inside Clara shattered. The years, the shifts, the money, all of it came rushing like a storm. She turned to Sandra. "I sent money every month," she said. "I sent enough to build 10 homes, enough for food, clothes, school. What did you do with it? It wasn't a tay." Sandra rolled her eyes. "You think raising children is cheap? Do you know what things cost in this country?" "I used the money." Clara's voice rose. "For what?" Sandra smirked. "For my life, for the life I deserved. You went abroad, left your blood behind, and now you want to question me. You think you're the only one who deserves peace." The neighbors began gathering outside. Voices rose. Naomi hid behind Clara. Daniel stood frozen, trembling. Clara's hands shook. "You starved my children while your own son eats like a king." Sandra stood tall. "I fed them. I clothed them. I gave them shelter when you ran off chasing pounds." Clara slapped her. The sound echoed across the compound. Sandra staggered back, her face red with rage. "You hit me?" she screamed. "After everything I did for you, you call this love?" Clara cried. "You turned my children into beggars." Sandra's voice broke into bitterness. "I was supposed to be the one to travel. You got lucky. You took everything that should have been mine." Daniel began crying. "Please, stop." Clara turned to her son, wiping his face. "No, Daniel. The truth must stand." Sandra's pride cracked. She screamed, "You left them fatherless. What did you expect me to do?" Clara whispered, "Not this." The crowd outside murmured. Someone recorded on their phone. The story was spreading even before the tears dried. Then, like divine timing, Uncle Mike appeared at the gate. He had followed Daniel's trail from the market. "Madam Clara?" he asked softly. "You're back." Clara looked at him through tears. "You knew?" Uncle Mike nodded. "I tried to reach you." She stopped every message. Sandra lunged toward him, shouting, "Old man, get out of my house!" But Uncle Mike raised his hand. "Not your house, Sandra. Hers. She built it with her sweat." Neighbors clapped. Sandra's voice faltered. The truth had finally found a witness. Clara turned to her children. "Pack your things," she said. "We're leaving." Sandra dropped to her knees suddenly. "Sister, wait. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I was angry, jealous. But please don't take them away." Clara looked at her coldly. "You already took enough." She walked out with her children, Uncle Mike following behind, the crowd parting for them. Sandra's sobs filled the street, but no one moved to comfort her. At the gate, Clara looked up at the house one last time. The sign read, "Times, House of Grace." Asterisk, she whispered, "No grace lives here." Then she turned away. The taxi pulled off slowly. In the back seat, the children sat silent. Naomi leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. Daniel held Jason's hand. The city rolled past in slow motion. For the first time, Clara's homecoming felt like exile. That night, she stayed with Aunt Rose, an old friend. The children slept early, their bellies full for the first time in months. Clara sat by the window, looking out at the quiet streets. She thought of Sandra, her envy, her betrayal, and the strange darkness that had turned her own blood into an enemy. These were just children, innocent, blameless, and yet they had been punished for another woman's jealousy. Clara wept quietly, but in her tears a cold resolve began to form. She would not allow this injustice to go unchallenged. It was time to get everything that rightfully belonged to her, and to prove that goodness could fight back. The next morning, she called a lawyer, a calm, older man who had handled her remittance papers years ago. She told him everything and brought out a folder she had kept hidden even from Sandra. Receipts, bank slips, and messages that showed every pound she had sent. "I knew I had to document everything," she said, "just in case my own blood turned against me." The lawyer nodded, impressed. "You were wise, Madam Clara. This will help you reclaim what's yours." As Clara planned her justice quietly, Sandra was also scheming in her own corner of the city. Word of Clara's return had spread fast, and fear began to coil in her gut. She rushed to another lawyer, insisting they hurriedly transfer the house documents fully into her name. "My sister may try to claim it," she said, "but she left me in charge. I built that house." Her lawyer warned her. "If she has proof of remittance, it won't stand." Sandra's eyes flashed with desperation. "Then I'll move faster." And so began the silent war between two sisters, one fighting to reclaim her stolen life, the other fighting to hold on to what never truly belonged to her. Both women sat at their separate windows that night, staring into the same dark sky, each thinking of the other, each building her revenge in the quiet of her heart. Her tears fell without sound. And as she closed her eyes, she whispered, "Tomorrow, we start again." In the days that followed, Sandra grew desperate. She visited the local land registry with a brown envelope stuffed with cash, whispering promises to the officials. "Make sure those papers bear my name only," she said. One of them hesitated, afraid. "Madam, if your sister presents proof, we could lose our jobs." Sandra's voice hardened. "Then make sure she never sees those records." Money changed hands. Files disappeared. Documents were rewritten overnight. When Clara learned of this through her lawyer, her stomach tightened. She could not believe her sister had sunk so low. Still, she pressed on, submitting every original receipt, every remittance slip, every transfer code with her name printed clearly. "She can buy signatures," Clara told her lawyer, "but she can't buy truth." Sandra, however, wasn't done. Unable to bend the law entirely her way, she turned to threats. One afternoon, Clara received a call. The voice on the other end was trembling with anger. It was Sandra. "You think you can take everything from me? I'll make your children pay. You hear me? You took my life. I'll take yours." Clara's hand shook as she held the phone, but her reply was calm, cold, and final. "You already took enough, Sandra. This time, you won't take my peace." She hung up and turned to her lawyer. "Let her dig her hole. I'll bury her with the truth." That night, Sandra sat alone in the half-empty house, clutching a drink. Her eyes were wild. The more she thought about Clara's calmness, the more it enraged her. She sent messages to old friends in the ministry, begging them to stall Clara's case. She even considered taking the children, her own nephews and niece, as leverage. She told one neighbor, "If she won't give up, I'll take what she loves most." The neighbor backed away slowly, horrified. Meanwhile, Clara prayed with Aunt Rose. "Let God fight this battle," Aunt Rose said softly. "Evil burns itself out." But Clara knew this wasn't over yet. Sandra had money left, connections, and enough bitterness to set the whole family ablaze. The war between them had moved beyond blood. It was now a war of power, pride, and proof. Weeks later, the case reached the courthouse. The room was filled with neighbors, traders, and reporters who had followed the story since Clara's return. Sandra stood before the judge, dressed in a borrowed gown, her confidence gone. Her lawyer tried to argue that the house and businesses belonged to her, but Clara's side came armed with evidence: every remittance slip, every money transfer, every message she had kept since the beginning. Then the children were called to testify. Daniel spoke first, his voice trembling but clear. "My mother sent money every month. We saw Auntie collect it. But we never ate good food. We never went to school. She said we must sell oranges or she would beat us." Naomi followed, tears running down her face as she told the judge about the hunger, the bruises, the nights locked outside. Even Jason, too young to understand everything, nodded quietly when asked if Auntie Sandra ever fed them properly. Neighbors came forward next. Uncle Mike stood firm. "I saw those children suffer. I saw that woman spend what was not hers." Another trader added, "She used your sister's money to build a house and open shops." Everyone knew. The courtroom fell silent. Sandra tried to defend herself. She abandoned those children. I raised them. The judge raised a hand. With their mother's money, he said. And with cruelty. By the end of the trial, the verdict was clear. Sandra Williams was found guilty of *** child maltreatment, fraud, and false pretense ***. Every property, every shop, every document was ordered to be transferred back to Clara Williams. The crowd murmured with approval. Justice, at last. When the judge's gavel struck, Sandra broke down in tears. Her world, the one she built on envy, crumbled. She was sentenced to time in custody and community service. Her son, Samson, was placed under Clara's care for rehabilitation. Weeks later, Clara stood again in the compound that once bore the name Times House of Grace ***. The sign had been taken down. The children played in the yard while Samson sat quietly on the steps, watching. He didn't laugh or join them. Guilt hung around him like a shadow. Clara looked at him, unsure what she felt, anger, pity, or something in between. Aunt Rose touched her arm gently. He's his mother's son, she said. But maybe with love he'll learn better. Clara sighed. Maybe. Or maybe he'll remind me every day of what envy can destroy. She turned to the camera, her voice steady and calm. Is greater than... Now I'll ask you, those watching and listening, if you were me, what would you do? Would you forgive the boy and raise him like your own? Or would you let him carry his mother's punishment? She paused, eyes glistening. Sometimes, life doesn't give us clean endings, it gives us choices. And what we choose next defines the story.